Hey, good morning. This is Ben with Studio on the Lake once again. This one is the Sparrow. And this is part two of the Sparrow, and it's going to kind of go over a lot of the same material that the baby bird did as far as the burning and whatnot. I did put a little paint on him, on his beak, his legs, and then a light wash over the rest of it. This guy came about. I wasn't planning on doing him. If you watch part one of this video, you see the seahorse, carousel seahorse, which is up and posted, laying in my lap. I got tired of playing around with him at some point in the middle, and I had a scrap piece that kind of looked like a sparrow of basswood, so I went ahead and switched over and did a quick sparrow. I think the carving time on this guy is probably about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So that is a part of a combo kit on the burner. I forget there's two pens. I think this is the regular pen, and then I think if it has a red foam on there, it is a heavy duty pen. Doesn't get quite as hot. These don't get particularly hot, and I burn with these for hours. And this is a little spear point. I think it's a number 5. If you go to it, and the whole set is PJL Enterprises. It's PJL Enterprises over in Minnesota, and they sell these individual pens. I forget what they are now, 15 or 20 bucks a pen. But you can take the tip is not removable. It's set in resin, I believe, in the tip. But you can send this tip back once you purchase the pen for that 15 or 20 bucks, and they will reset whatever tip you want in there. They can you just go through their catalog, look on them. But I think this is a number 5 or number 7 SKEW, SKEW. So I did the head the same way, and I'll do the head probably 2 or 3 times in burn, and then I come back and take a lot of that off with to see where it's going to end up with a brush. Now you see on here, I'm actually scraping the beak, not really carving it. And this is kind of something that's unique that I do. If you're looking for tips and techniques, which a lot of you are, if you're just watching it for the heck of seeing a bird come out, there is one thing about this. I wish I'd set the eyes a little bit deeper. I didn't, so I'll get to live with that. But here's the homemade knife that I use, and now I use that back portion to set eyes. I also use it to do some burnishing. So by burnishing, that beak takes on just a little bit different characteristic, and it gets kind of smooth. It reacts with the paint, and you can actually burnish nice little bumps and grooves in there if you're trying to recreate a lifestyle realistic bird. This one, I've said before, is not. And again, that's an Ultima carver on there. If you haven't subscribed or haven't looked back at some of the other videos, I've got a video on that on I think it's under power carving, and it shows you what my setup is. I've got 2 of these. It's a combo. Left side of it has the burning pin, and the right side has the hand piece. And I run most of these hand pieces on 10, but this is the older one. It's 25 years old, and it has a diamond taper in it. If you're trying to build a bird for competition, or if you're just one of those guys that wants to have a bird in realistic format, these feather groupings that I'm throwing on here real quick are not accurate. They represent as opposed to show the realism. So it's kind of coverlets in the front, and then you see the wing, start of the wing in the back, and then the wing tips. And I'm doing it symmetrically. So once I do one side, I do the other side on this, and use it to kind of lay it out. I am sitting down again in Iowa. This is my week down in Iowa, not up at home. While I'm doing the voiceover to this. Obviously, I carved them up north, and then I bring them down. I have another video today that I haven't put together yet. And it was one that Jordy Johnson over at Carving Fusion asked me. He said, "Can you do, or please do a spirit bird?" And I have parts of that video edited, but I haven't done the rest. So I got some ideas on that. And you'll hear a little bit more about that when I get that up, and hopefully either later today or tomorrow, maybe the next day, I'll get around to posting that video. But and my initial thoughts on it, and what I wrote back to Jordy was, man, I'd have to give that some thought. If you remember our spirit fish fiasco way back in the dark ages, I did one as a joke on something that Jordy said, and then him and Rob over at Just Carve Rob did one also, and it ended up kind of being a competition. And I really liked the way theirs came out. Mine I initially did just as a joke. I wasn't that fond of it, but that kind of started a lot of this stuff. So I envision this one will take off on a tangent also. This year I was going to try to not do as many crazy projects. And I asked at the end of the year, on the year-end summary, what people wanted to see. And they said they wanted to see some birds on the way through and carousel animals. So I had stepped away from the birds a little bit because they don't have that great a following. I was kind of surprised the magic wand that I did is one of the most popular videos, and it's not something that I would think that anybody would be particularly interested in. So this is 3 or 4 in the bird series, and we're going to go up in size of birds. So the next one I'm going to do is a decoy, and I'm thinking a ruddy duck. I've got a real nice ruddy duck pattern, or maybe a black duck. And the reason the black duck is almost exactly the same as a mallard, the shapes, the body, the whole 9 yards. It's just the coloring on it. So if you can carve a black duck or a mallard, you can do the other one just as easy. And the reasoning for the black duck, some people have asked about the burning of the feathers, and this guy's a particular case of that. I burn on some of these and try to leave the burning in there and leave it alone. That saves me from having to paint. Now the difference between a pen and a stone is on feathers is I use a burn pen when the feathers have details or they're a longer feather. If I'm doing the body or sometimes on parts of the head and I don't want the color, I'm going to paint it, in other words, I don't want the color of the wood burning in there, or it doesn't matter, then I will go ahead and use a stone, and I'll show you that in the next video or two what the difference is. I'll do a little study piece and show you how the paint reads over stoning versus over burning. This guy, the sparrow and the baby bird, they're burned, and I left the burning out. Once again, I'm putting these feathers in, and I'm doing this one pretty quick. Like I said, this was not intended to be a planned one. It was just something I got tired of working on the carousel, and I find it relaxing to do a bird. And those are the wingtips that I'm doing right there. And it looks like I'm burning really dark. I am burning pretty hot. On this one, it's a 6 or a 7, depending upon your burner. If you have the same one, I don't know. But this is a touch on the hot side, and it's at 2 times the speed, because you don't want to see the pain of me burning. People will ask, how do you have the patience to do this burning? And to me, the burning is one of the most relaxing parts. I get to see the feathers come out and the thing all kind of comes together. That's not to say, like if I'm doing a big eagle or a hawk, or sometimes even the decoys where there's a lot of burning on there, so we're talking 10 or 12 hours of burning. I do get tired of looking at it and doing the burning. But this is the first pass on the feathers. There's something kind of unique at the end of this that I'm going to show you towards the end of this video, where I'll come back and undercut those feathers again and not even necessarily stay with the feather pattern. So if you're paying attention to this, you'll notice that I'm burning each feather in a sequence. So the one above would kind of overlap the one below, and you can do that in in 2 or 3 sets. Now these are the tail feathers that I'm putting in now. And the first tail feather on the top will have 2 sides, and then you'll see the quill down the middle, and then you'll have 2 sides of the feather. The rest of the feathers will have a feather laying on top of them, and they'll be overlapped. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking here for a little while and let you just watch through the video. I'm going to pick up a little bit towards the end of this because there's a couple things that I should talk about so that you can figure out what I'm doing. So I'll see you in about 10 minutes. Okay, so I'm back with you here. You didn't get to see that, but I outlined these feathers. This is probably the third pass on them, but I just did another outline of each feather, and now I'm going back and I'm cutting a little bit deeper where the feather above overlaps, and then I'm kind of fading out as I go towards the bottom. I'll do this, and this really kind of finishes off the bird. Since I'm going to leave this guy unpainted, or that's my intent, I have to do those burning passes. And in just a second, you're going to see how I pull that off, and it really makes a big difference. All right, so here we are on this side, and you can see I'm undercutting those feathers, realigning them, and I'm doing it fairly deep. And then what you saw me doing on the other side, coming back and redefining those feathers, really reads well once I take the brass brush and brush these off. And this is kind of the finishing mode in the style that I do on these little birds. You can go nuts and burn these 6, 8, 10 times and brush them off each time, and you'll come up with a really detailed product at the end. So since this guy was designed, or what he looked to me like was he was standing up on something, so whereas the baby bird was sitting in your hand, here's a little piece of wood. I take these pieces of wood, if I see them, this is just a root, I think. I don't know if it was driftwood or what, but it was a small piece, and I save them for bird mounts. I just have a ruby bit in there, and I'm just kind of cleaning that up a little bit. I'm not trying real hard to take anything away, because I'm not even gonna put a stain on it. I will flatten the back of it. So in this case, he's standing up, so this would be sitting on a table. Now, it's also possible to hang this guy on the wall. That works really good with nut hatches. Maybe a little different pose, so you could hang this thing on a wall. Be a different orientation. So I'm just cleaning the fuzz and the goop off of it, and getting a nice clean base to put on here. Now if you were to take this over the bandsaw or whatever, or cut off a piece of driftwood where you've got a saw section in there, then you might want to carve away the portion where the saw did the clean cut, and turn it into something like kind of on the left side that you can see where it broke, and broke off or something. I'm not going to mess with it. So here's a selection of wire. I have some bird feed if I'm doing cast bird feed. You've seen them in the eye bucket probably, but I just picked out a wire, and I punched a little bit of hole in there, whether it be a foot, and then I did 2 of them, and I'm going to bend those, and I'm going to use those as the feet, and then I can mess around with them, and they're not 100%, but they read fine for this level of carving. So I said he was going to be standing kind of up with his head up in the air, and you can see here where I wish I'd have put those eyes in just a little bit deeper, and it wouldn't have given him quite that bug-eyed look from the front. He reads real well from the side. So there are is the finished product, and I just painted a little bit over there. I'm going to redo this stuff, but this guy's in my Etsy shop, so go over there and check it out. Hey, thanks a lot. Like, subscribe, comment. This has been Ben with Studio on the Lake.